SmashFactor.
Ripping driver, going for it. Oh my goodness. How about that tee shot?
That is crazy how far that is.
Wow. John Daly, take a back seat, big fella. How about that drive?
That's an aggressive line. Man, that is beyond long.
Look at this. He's just driven the green. He has just driven the green.
I guess hello world, huh?
Welcome everybody to another edition of the Smash Factor, episode 108, Charles Schwab Challenge, GPP strategy, kind of inside for us. My schedule, obviously I talked about it the other day on the pod. It'd be a little bit different. I will be doing multiple pods a week. Structure, timing, and all that I'll kind of work out. I haven't locked in anything because I know any moment our boy JB is going to have a baby on the ground, so I don't want to lock him up too much and let him focus on the family. But I can always do the audio pods for now. But I plan on almost getting out to a daily pod schedule, whether it be especially in the fall. So when we got NFL and golf going in this fall, more than any with the Masters and other majors going, it's going to be almost daily, which was a big factor in me going ahead and taking this time and opportunity to go all in on Gov's Corner, because it's just going to be a lot of work and a lot of effort and a lot of time into it. But the man that makes all the things happen behind the scenes is a major factor in that. So, I want to make sure we're good there. So we will we have a schedule out now, but we'll alter it as we got UFC on board, NASCAR is hot and heavy, and we're adjusting to the COVID schedule-ish I think Dana White this morning said they're going to have 4 fights on the island between July 11th and 25th. So there's no point in us saying, here's our schedule every day all week, because we're flowing and adjusting to everybody else. Golf's a little easier because we know unless something crazy comes up, we know what the schedule is going to be. But one of the things I'm going to do is on Tuesdays, normally, we'll get normal salary out Monday afternoon. So things will be different than it was this week because we had salary out, a week ago almost. And, I'm going to do either some type of one-off pod, whether it be betting, GPP, something for me, an update just for, the public side. And then obviously every Wednesday we still do the emergency 9 behind the scenes. The great thing, I got Mr. Kenny Kim locked and loaded. He's no longer Kenny at dark. So it's like breakfast with Kenny, I think is what he's going to go with. But I got him locked up tomorrow night for the E9. We're going to go a little earlier than normal. But as always, it's premium members only. So if you sign up or you're already signed up, you have access to it. We do post it on the site, so you'll have access to it all night. I'll be in literally all night. I may not even sleep tomorrow night because I'll be going so hard and I'm catching up from moving and taking care of the family. But the wife knows, and obviously she's the queen and taking care. She knows from tomorrow from about 4:00 on PM, I'm up here in the office. I'll be here working, putting lineups together, being in the Slack, being available almost till lock, and it says 5 a.m. now. I can't imagine that's going to, I assume they'll update it once tee times are I don't know if tee times are out or not, but it'll probably be 6:45 or so-ish when they'll tee off. I assume they're going to go as early as they can with the heat that they got going and as many guys they got going. But right now, we're going to do about a 35-minute pod, something I've never done before, live on a tournament, but with a Millie Maker, non-major style, and me having luck boxed into bringing on what I think is or one of the top 5 GPP players on the planet right now. Mr. Josh Gordon, brought him in on the team prior to his hot run, thank God, or I may not have had that opportunity. But Josh, welcome aboard. Obviously, you've been behind the scenes working your ass off, doing a lot of work, a lot of compliments. Hard work paid off. You've been on a hell of a run the last 30 days. A lot of people want to know your insight. I know we talked, and you are going to drop a GPP strategy article later on tonight. I've read it. It's awesome. I'm going to do I'm going to do a deep dive, but not on recent form and course history like normal because there's no purpose in it. So I've tweaked a couple of deals I'm working on. Gonna put a little different twist on it and roll it out later on as well. But How you doing? First of all, welcome. I know you're in Houston, Texas, where it's probably as hot as it is here or not, but how are you? How are the family? And welcome to the live show.
Appreciate it, brother, man. Thank you. And thank you to everybody out there. And it is unbelievably hot here in Houston. It is crazy hot. And I'm hoping to stay hot and DFS wise, but a lot of my success has been with the content and the community from NASCAR and MMA, which are sports that I really wasn't an expert in prior, but I do in my opinion, a really good job of taking in content that I get from around the industry and being able to apply it in my own way. So, but Gup's Corner and you, Gupman, have been a real linchpin to my success. So thank you to you and to everybody out there. But I'm doing great and family is good. Just ended my work day and ready to talk some golf, man. It's going to be a really fun week.
No, it is. And everybody, not going to hit on specific, this guy, that guy, this guy. I mean, we'll talk about them some, but in more, it's a theory based. It's, hey, we got guys that may, especially with the lineup generator, which, our man Bobby Gould has just slayed it. And a lot of the guys are impressed. It's smooth. It's easy. I put out a video last night. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. It's on Twitter. YouTube, obviously, is where it's posted. I'm giving away $400 either later tonight or tomorrow. I'm keeping an eye on the contest to make sure I get all that out so you can get that out there. Obviously, Super Draft's got great contests going. I retweeted their contest earlier. D-Rock put out his article. He's the best in the industry with the Super Draft knowledge and insight. You can use the code GUP there. In all these affiliates, you can go to gupscorner.com/affiliate, click on Super Draft, click on Monkey Knife Fight, whichever you want to do. Do both. They're not the same. The difference with Monkey Knife Fight is that it's kind of like the betting scene. It's us against the book. It's not us against us in the DFS world. So I love the partnership there. They're very high on the Gups Corner community. You guys have been great with it. With Super Draft, use the code GUP. You get $10 bonus if you put your first $10 in play. Put that $20 in. If you win, you win. You can take it out if you want. There's no run it back rules or anything like that. You can take it out or you can keep rolling. It's up to you. Like I said, all their content is integrated with our products. For everybody listening, we're doing the big promo this week. CV30 gets you 30% off. That's through Sunday. So if you're listening, you want to try it out, now's the time. If you're wanting to check out the tools and all that, it's free. So you can go check that out. I talked about it on the last pod. I also did the video last night. It shows you the video is free. You can go check it out. And then you can go check out the tools and the lineup generator and all that. And then if you like it and you want to lock in before Sunday night ends, use a CV30, get 30% off. But with the generator, I think a lot of people are going to try, even if it's, and we preach this, try, the mini max or the dime, 25 cents, whatever it is. So with guys using the generator now and that, I wanted to hit on some GPP strategy, kind of how you differentiate yourself in such a pool like this. This is a little bit different because everything is kind of unknown this week. There's not like a group think type. Everybody's going to be on this guy, that guy. I think there are a few of them and we'll hit on those, but overall, I wanted to hit all that. The last one is if you want merchandise, if you sign up monthly, you get a shirt or a hat. I've got the shirt on, hat's back here. If you sign up annually, you get both. So at the end of the month, we're going to run all the results and we'll send you guys an email. You'll be able to go on there, log in. Shipping's free. Everything's free. You get the hat, the shirt, or both if you do annual. If you're a current member, we're doing 40% off with the code Colonial. So go check out the website. You can do the HV3 shirt as well. You can do it all and get 40% off. All the profits on the HV3 shirt, which go to his foundation. Obviously, he's been well, documented over the last week or so. I've retweeted. I've talked to him a few times. And that foundation is some of the stuff we need to support to get the opportunity to everybody out there. White, black, purple, green, doesn't matter the color, just people that didn't have that opportunity growing up. That's what his foundation supports. And so it's a great foundation. All the profits we do on his shirt goes to that. 40% off with Colonial if you want to support that cause. I think that's through all the kind of promos and all that. So we'll get right to this. So Josh, at the top, I don't want to not price, but at the beginning, when you have a big field like this, so this isn't NASCAR, this isn't MMA, where you kind of get to dissect 25 to 40 people. You got 147, over 55% of them are 6K. When you want to digest your GPP strategy, what is your first step in dissecting the field or cutting it down or getting it in? How do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? Like, what is your first step when you get into that?
I mean, mainly I'm looking at price, and I'm looking at the entire grouping of this field, and this field is loaded. So this field from top to bottom is extremely loaded, especially in the mid 8K to that 7K range. So up top, I usually am the type of player that fades, especially a type like a Rory McIlroy type. That's going to be, in my opinion, ownership is going to be very tough to pin down, I think, for anybody. I would expect him to be in the 15 to 20% range. So I mainly am looking at price and overall ownership at that top. And when I see a field that I think is really overall balanced, similar to kind of like a major type of field, I tend to drop down to that second tier of that, the second level of the top tier.
So, and it's a great point because, the Masters, we normally have, you throw out the guys that get life, all that kind of stuff. You may have 70, 80 guys. And then even after that, there's probably some you can throw out that making their first time, whatever, such and such. A smaller field to dissect. And then US Open is probably the biggest because it gets everybody qualified. So in that sense, you are correct. There's a lot there. Ownership matters. And this is a week where I would say I'm one of the top guys at projecting the ownership, and by far it'll be my hardest job at trying to do this tomorrow. And I know everybody's gonna be waiting on it, and it's kind of like chicken and the egg when you're trying to decide it, because you're like, all right, you're digesting podcasts, you're reading, you're looking for articles, typically I use an algorithm that takes in prior ownership over X amount of time and all that kind of stuff. And you're like, I don't know how much that means right now. Cause it's like they were saying today on a lot of the press conference, it's almost like, hey, this feels like an opening day in MLB.
Yeah.
Everything's restarting. It's been 3 months. And it's true. And I'll press that very hard in my article tomorrow on the Guts Final Thoughts that I may be 10% off on a guy, which normally I tell people plus or minus 2 or 4% is where I'll put most people. I could be completely off on some of these guys. I could think a guy's going to be chalk city, and because he's the only one that's been talked up, everybody moves off of him, and all of a sudden he's not, and it becomes a lot harder. I personally am going to use ownership, but I'm more going to trust my data, my information, my plays. Just go, this is what I'm going to go with. If I'm way off on ownership, it is what it is. There's a few guys I'll earmark and say, hey, I know I'm pretty confident this guy's going to be chalky just because of what I've seen. And I think I'm going to have a low ownership. One guy right off the bat that I think we agree on that I don't see any scenario of him being somewhat remotely chalky is DeChambeau. Is there anything at this time that's changed your opinion that sees him being chalky? Do you not care? Is he obviously I previewed the article, so I don't want to get too much of it out because our premium members get that. But do you think it's because of his ownership you tag him, or do you think just his personality fitting the deal? Because his course history is garbage. Recent form was very good. He's obviously going to work on anything harder than anybody. Where are you at on Bryson?
That's a great point, Gub. And this week I am mainly going to be taking more than normal course history into my process. So course history more than normal, I'm going to be weighting heavier. With Bryson, he is one that I just don't care with him. He was in great form before. I know he's really polarizing. I love that guy, and I just like the way he approaches the game. He cares. He cares about everything that he does, and I just can't imagine him kind of being lazy and letting the last 90 days get away from him. And I also think when you're dropping down from either Rory or JT or Rahm, a lot of players are probably going to drop into the lower 9K, that high 9K, low 9K range and try to go balance. So I think Bryson's kind of going to get squeezed by price and just by the polarizing type of figure he is. I expect him to be the lowest owned of those kind of top four. But I love him. He was in great form prior to this tournament. Of course, he's one of the few that I don't care about course history. I'm going to be heavy on Bryson for better or for worse this week.
Yeah, and I think baptizing by fire type of deal. Sometimes people hear heavy and they think, oh, he's going to be 40%. Well, it's not. It's relative to their projected ownership. Obviously, we just mentioned God knows what that's going to be this week, but like I'm going to be hard pressed to put him more than 12% owned. And so when someone says heavy, like you can have 24% of him and you're heavy on the field, and that's all you need. It's not like you have to go all in and be 40, 50, 60% type of deal. Where in NASCAR or UFC, because there's only so many guys, like heavy is 60, 70, sometimes 80% type of deal. With him, I can get all the exposure I want there for 24% and feel fine with it. Whereas you may still play a Rory. I personally think Rory's going to come in a lot lower owned on good lineups than most. The difficult part for me so far, and this morning when I was doing some work, was the new people to the game, public, all that, like to click the top guy. And obviously Rory's a name that's well known. He played in the mat, all that kind of stuff. And so I'm like, he's going to get that piece, but I think a lot of people are going to move off of him because they want to be more balanced and they don't want to have to drop into the sixes. And so the balance there is very difficult. And I certainly think JT will be higher owned. I think JT will be the number one owned guy in the 10K plus. It won't be close, but that's tough with Rory. It's going to be, what do you do there? I don't think I would full fade him by any means, but I can see taking a lower stance and still. One of the things I like to do and get your comments on it is when I take a lower stance on a guy like that, what I'll try to do to gain my leverage back by taking a lower stance is be unique in my builds with him. What are your thoughts on something like that?
Gub, you really bring up a great point, because that is a huge factor, is when I'm talking about being heavy on a guy like Bryson, he's not going to be 25, 30% owned, where I would need to get 50% to feel like I had good leverage. So that's a great point. I'm glad you brought that up. That is really critical. What I'm going to do as far as with Bryson here is when I'm playing Rory lineups, like you're saying, I'm a 150 max player. So just so everybody understands, I am going to have max entries in the Millie Maker. I'm not going to full fade any elite player in this field. So I'm not going to have 0% Rory. I'm not going to have 0% JT. I will have about 5 to 7%. So I do want to make sure that everybody understands that. I am 150 max player, and I'm going to have 150. So I'm not full fading any elite player. Rory could absolutely come out there and run away with this field, and I would like to have at least some 5 to 7%. To your point, Gup, I will. I also am a hand builder, which is somewhat unique. So I will absolutely, when I'm playing Rory, make sure that I can get unique in some other spots, but also mix in what I would think is some good lower price chalk with him, because I think what you're saying is fair. He may be in the 15% range, to where my 5% isn't a huge underweight stance, but I can still be overweight on Rahm, which is the main key for how I'm building this week. Is I want to be overweight on Rahm, and I think I'm going to need 35% to get over on Jon Rahm.
No, it's a great point, because I think people, what the default is, most people just wind up getting equal shares of all the top guys, and it just kills your leverage on the multipliers of lineups and unique lineups you can make. And so what you said and what I'm talking, I haven't decided my stance on Rory. It'll probably come out more in the Gup's final thoughts tomorrow, but the guys that I go underweight on it, and I'm maxing, I'll probably max a million. I just want to make it real clear to people out there. 4 months ago, 6 months ago, Josh wasn't maxing the Millie Maker like there. Like, he's worked his ass off, and he wrote a great article about how he got there. Mini max 20. I mean, no different than a lot of us that have done it. You baby step your way up. It wasn't like he just showed up and said, I'm gonna put $3,000 in this golf tournament this week because I got it. It was, worked his ass off, grinded, and then hit a great month, and he's still on fire with it. And so, no different than me. I bankrolled up. Outlaw was great to me. I won 30, 40,000 right off the bat within 2 or 3 weeks. And I didn't change my bankroll necessarily from there. And part of it was I knew when this stuff come back, there was going to be some big tournaments. And so I put that money aside. And I'm like, all right, when that tournament comes back, yeah, I may be 4,000 or 5,000 this week, but I planned for it in my bankroll management, which we preach all over Gup's Corner. And, in doing that, so like, yeah, if I go light on Rory, and I may use the generator because I obviously I helped build it mentally. I didn't actually code it because I don't have those kind of skills, but I like the way it's built and the way it's done. But what I will do is export my lineups, and I'll go look at some of the guys that I know I'm underweight on and be like, am I unique enough? Am I not? Or I may build 100 lineups through it, and then my last 50 do quote unquote by hand, because I've always been a hand builder as well. So you can do both of those and get majority of it done if you don't feel like just grinding 150 lineups and then reviewing it in the way that you want to. when you drop, I agree with you on when you drop down. So the 9/8s, people are going to want to get balanced. I think it's pretty universal in the industry right now that the 7K range looks to be loaded, chalk city. I'll come back to the 8/9s, but do you try to nitpick your 7Ks and go, I'm going to take these 4 or 5 and go overweight and just fade? Obviously, we not fade 100% if you're doing 150 lineups. Or do you try to get balanced on all of them? What's your best strategy there in the 7K range, which we think everybody's going to have to come down to and figure out how they're going to handle that?
The 7K range, and I do play a little bit more risky as far as I do take heavier stands as far as fading players and being overweight on players. So I will. I've already crossed off a good amount of that 7K, so I can focus on a 5 or 6 guy pool in that 7K range. I have about 66 players total in my pool throughout the 150 lineup. So I've broken, my overall pool down to like the 65, 70 player range. And that includes, sprinkling 2% here. I'm going to be sprinkling in a lot of the under 7K guys of kind of my personal favorites and some FOMOs and Pat Perez, one of my favorites of all time, who's always just a 1% for me. But so I'm going to have some sprinkles, but the 7Ks, I am going to be taking a couple stands on some guys that I think are going to be over, 10, 15%. And to me, there's just so many in the 7K range that, people are going to play 15% own Daniel Berger at 7,700. I just feel like I can go elsewhere. So I am absolutely going to be taking some stands. There's going to be some that I'm going to have 0% on there. And then there'll be some that I'll have maybe 2 or 3, but I'm definitely taking some stands in the 7K so that I can be overweight.
So a burger that could potentially be getting some steam and stuff like that. Is that a guy you just go, I'm off 100, or do you go light and I'll take 7% of them and hope I get them in a unique lineup with someone else that's lightweight? Or do you just go, that's a spot that I can just say I'm out and I gain leverage in my unique build type setup? What do you do there with the burger type?
He's one of the few that I have completely crossed off. He's not in my pool at all. I'm taking a 0% stance on Daniel Berger. And golf is unique to where, we're all humans at the end of the day. And we build, some personal stances and things that we've gone through over the years with these players. And I never get him right. I don't have a good feel for him. He's 7,700. He's going to be chalky. I have a better feel for other golfers in that range. So he is one that I've got 0% of right now. And I'm going to stay at 0%.
So the one guy that I think we're kind of a little different on when I read the article is Webb. Everything you state is identical type of theory. So there's always going to be a guy that's chalky that you deem good chalk, and so you go overweight. I assume with the Webb, you're going to have to be overweight if you like him.
Yes, that's probably the toughest decision for me on the week, and I have decided to go overweight on Webb. He's just so consistent. I just like his mental game, his short game. It's hot here. I mean, I'm 3.5, 4 hours away. I don't know what the rain situation has been there. I don't know if they're watering their greens. I would imagine these greens are going to be hard to hold, and I'm gonna lean on short game. And I like Webb, and I just don't think he's fadeable at under 10K. So I'm gonna be overweight on him. And I'm thinking, I'll wait to see your projections. But if he's 25, 28%, I'm not going to go over 40% on any golfer. So I do want to get that out there now. I don't plan on being over 45. I would have to really fall in love with a golfer this week to be 45%. So I would expect to be the 35% range on Webb, and hopefully that's a little bit over the field. And I'm going to be different with him. I'm a hand builder, so I'm absolutely going to be leaving money on the table in Webb lineups, and I'm going to be getting a little bit kooky down under 7K with him to try to get away from the chalk. And I do look at overall ownership of the lineup, not just ownership on that player, overall correlation of that lineup with ownership included.
Yeah, and obviously that matters more in an MME style, GPP style, which we're focusing on here. Tomorrow night on E9, I'll hit a little bit more on more data, more information, and I'll go on the 1 to 3 max type stuff. We'll have Kenny on cash style. What's he thinking? So, when you get a Webb and there's a $200 single entry, ownership doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't fucking matter. Oh yeah, we're on Smash. I don't know if I can say that, I forget. I get E9 in me where I can cuss, but because kids can't watch that without mama's permission.
I've had to make sure that
yeah. No, but they can watch Smash. But I'll get. It doesn't matter. Ownership literally does it. I don't want to say it doesn't matter. That's probably too pronounced, but it matters very little in a 200 because everybody has one bullet in that, and it really comes down to the unique of your total build. So if you want to play web, play web. Now, if you go, JT web, one of these hot 7K. I mean, if you get 4 guys that are all chalky, you're probably giving up, some leverage there, but it's a totally different mindset than 150, whether it be the Millie Maker or the 50 cent or anything like that. It's a different mentality. So I only stress that because some people hear stuff and then they're like, well, you said, you got to be overweight here. You got to, and I'm like, well, that's why it's so hard to answer questions for guys. Because the first thing I respond 90% of the time is, what contests are you playing? How many lineups are you putting in? Is this, because that all matters in the build. And it makes our job hard because you're trying to accommodate so many different people and styles. So you want to hit all leverages. I'm not sure where I am, Web. Right as of last night when I did the Smash, I was 100% fade because I typically pick one guy 9K or above that's going to be 20% or more owned that I full fade because it gives me that full flexibility to build uniquely with not having him. That's something I've always done, and I stick to it generally. Right now it was him. It could be Rose. I could just wind up playing both, but going very low and spread out, unique lineups like you talked about with Rory type of deal. There's a lot to do there, which is why that makes this week the ultimate challenge. Now, ultimately, we get to Sunday, whoever wins it, someone's going to, spout off, well, it was luck anyways, right? You guys said no one knew anything, but there is some strategy and there's a lot of grinding into it. A guy that we're both on, and then we'll drop down kind of the sixes and kind of wrap it up, is Finau. He'll probably be talked up. He typically a top 10, just grinder. Is there any, obviously you don't want to start Webb. That's, you don't want to start Webb, Finau, Woodland, Damon. You're probably not going to have very unique build there, but on Finau, is he a guy that you like to see? I'm going to be leveraged to the field. So if you think he's 18 to 21%, all right, I'll be even with him, but over on Webb, or do you take each scenario, each lineup case by case?
I do take each lineup case by case, but I do map out exactly before I do anything. I've written down exactly how many lineups I'm going to have with a certain player. So I've got a pretty good map of it. But on Finau, I expect him to be 20%, 25% at the most, and I'm going to be close to that 40% number. It's a price thing with him. He doesn't have to win at that number. He is really, really consistent, and similar to like a Bryson. He cares. That man cares, and he's a grinder. And I can't imagine him getting lazy and partying and putting on 10 pounds and losing his swing. I love Tony Finau. If he was 9,800, 9,900, I would probably be underweight on him, but it's more of a price play. He's under 9K. I'm fading Gary Woodland. He is my big fade of the week. I'm going to have no more than 5% Gary Woodland. That allows me to be able to get the leverage I need on a guy like Tony Finau. So those two I really battled with, and I ended up going Finau. The club down Gary Woodland narrative is real out there. I know everybody's heard that for years. I expect him to get some late boost, even if it's – I expect him to get ownership. I'm going to be fading Gary so I can get overweight on Tony Finau.
Well, and that statement is a great statement because a lot of people struggle with that. They go – I'm fading a Woodland who I know is going to be high owned so I can gain leverage in XYZ, whoever it is, it doesn't matter. Same difference in the 9K type stuff. Like I may fade a Rose or a Webb so I can gain leverage on guys like Brooks that I may think could be lower owned. Doesn't mean I'm going to do that in every range or every place, but there are going to be 3 or 4 or 5 spots that I pick and choose to do that. And I roll the dice, right? And if those guys want to, winning it or coming in top 5, then I knew that risk going in, but you can't play everybody. We know that, especially in golf. Like it's just impossible. You're going to spread yourself so thin that you're better off putting one lineup in than 150 lineups because you're just that thin. It's a luck box type of deal. Yeah. And that's where people struggle. They'll go, I want to play Finau, but I love Woodland too. And I'm like, well, to get ownership or leverage on the field on both those guys, like you're giving up so much of your player pool that it doesn't make sense. And so you have to pick and choose there. One guy that we differ on down low, I like Horschel and I don't like Horschel. That probably is an oxymoron type statement, but like I never play him. But in this scenario, I'm like he's a dude that I'm like, he don't give a shit. Like that's his attitude. He'll show up, he plays. That's my second sneak preview to your article is that he's a fade for you. Talk to me about your thoughts on Horschel.
He is. I personally, I think he's going to be the highest owned in this range.
I could see that. Yeah, for sure.
So to me, I usually pick the highest owned range. Tell me if I'm wrong about him. I don't particularly like his short game. I leave the expert, kind of analysis to you guys, but I've had bad luck with him over the years. He's going to be chalky. I'm not sure I like him off the layoff. I just don't have a good feel for him, and I think he's going to be the highest owned. And I'm going to want to get a little bit overweight on a bunch of other players in that range. So he was similar to like a Daniel Berger, but I am going to have a sprinkle of Billy Ho. I do want like 3 to 5% of Billy Ho in my lineups, but he's going to be a fade for me. But it's more that one is a real ownership game. And I think that one could absolutely end up biting me. And I don't disagree with you or anybody being on him. That one is just an ownership play, so I can be overweight on a couple of other guys.
No, and you got to take that because you can't have a bunch of Horschel, a bunch of Berger, and all that kind of stuff. Listening today, a lot of the guys, the two things I wrote down as notes that have changed my opinion a tad, and where I'll re-attack tonight and kind of get ready for Gov's final thoughts. I heard at least 3 guys say they expect it to be a lot like the Justin Rose year, and the greens are extremely receptive right now, which I did not think when I did the Smash last night. And so that changes my opinion on some things, not all, because you still have to have the good angles. Like that doesn't change the course, but if guys can attack pins, what I will do in my kind of final thought rankings when I always re-up stuff will be to the great iron players will get even more of a bump for me, because if they can hit those greens and they can go flag hunting, a Rory type, or even down low, I will up that as long as that's the theme I keep hearing. And obviously I have contacts and I'll kind of tag some of those tonight, but hey, I heard greens seem receptive, few caddies that I'll talk to. What do you feel? And if that's a consensus, that's a thing I'll blend into the final rankings tomorrow. I'm not all in yet because I've only heard it from a very small, it's anecdotal from what we heard on conferences today. A lot of wind right now. If you're not familiar with the storm. So I'm in Norman. I'm about 2.5 hours north. Like this morning I was driving to the gym and, the flags were, standing straight from the east, which is rare in Oklahoma. And that tropical storm, the wind was coming in, it was 40, 50 miles an hour. And that's what they had out there today. So I, like you, thought, drying out greens, stuff like that. But I guess I know they've had rain up there. I've been familiar with DFW. Obviously, it's something that I'll pay attention to because it does change if guys can go attack pins, I think 100%. I
agree with you 100%. And actually, I didn't think there was any type of a weather angle, which is why I was kind of dug in. But I'm going to reserve. I'm going to go with you on that one. And I'm going to wait to kind of dig in on any final decisions because I didn't. That's something that surprises me.
Yeah, and the wind, so the way as it sits today, the way that storm's moving through, by Thursday, it's nothing. Like we're going to have 5 to 10 mile an hour. But I guess, I don't know what the way the course has been having it, but the receptive greens does change things for me. And so if those players still think the greens are attackable, that's a totally different mindset than what I expected on Monday, because all you're hearing is heat, hot, baked out type deal. So in this industry and what we do, you have to take that information. You don't go all in off the top. Like right now, I'm not going to go all in on all that, but in the next, 12 to 18 hours, that's something I will reach out and try to figure out. I'll read, look on Twitter, look at the players, stuff like that. As we wrap it up, the final question for me to you will be, when you're in the 6K range, I think I said it on the pod. I don't remember what I said. I got it right here. I think it was 90. Let me scroll on down. 79 of the players, 147. So 54% of the players in the 6K range. When you're attacking the 6K range, and especially this big of a field, do you go, I'm going to have 8 guys, 10 guys, I'm going to have 8% of my pool? Like, how do you attack that big of a range that not many elite players are in? Obviously, that's why they're that price. What do? Do you want to get overweight on 8 to 12? Do you want to shotgun it this week because God knows what these guys have been doing? So you go to 20. Like, what's your attack down there before we wrap it up?
Yeah, this week I'm going to expand that range a little bit more than I normally would do. I'm probably a little bit riskier than most down in the 7Ks, and I think one of my weaknesses as a player that I'm trying to continue to get better at is being spread out too thin down here. In big field tournaments, down in the under 7K range. So I made sure that I limited to under 10 guys this week, where I can basically be no over 12%, 13% on any of these guys under 7K. And I'm going to sprinkle through the 8 to 10 guys that I have. And I have crossed off, I just went through, and the only guys that, have the decent stats that I'm looking for, have some course history or had decent form before COVID layoff. And then I went one more time and broke that down from that 20 range to 10, and I'm going to cycle through those. So there's not one I really love. I'm not going to have one down here over the 10, 12, maybe get to 15% on one that's in the article. I think that me and you are both in agreement on Gup that we'll leave that to the article. So I may get close to 15% on him, but I don't plan on being over 10%, 12% on any guy down here.
Just make sure you get some HV3 in there, because at 6,900, I think he's in the ball game this week. I appreciate your time. As I'm learning as I go. I mean, it feels I've been doing this for 5 years now, but this is a new chapter for me. So to have the time and flexibility, like I'm grinding on the background, but I'm like, all right, what do I provide? I'm never going to put out content just to put it out. If you guys know me or don't know me, obviously if you're listening to this, you probably do. Like, I'm not a person to just say, well, I got to put it out because I want clicks and all that. I want it to mean something, to be valuable. I thought this opportunity, especially with a unique Millie Maker setup, was good. I do and will, once we get kind of a regular schedule, I will be doing close to a daily type of communication with the masses. Some of it's going to be premium only content, no different than any other site. Some of it's still going to stay. The Smash will always stay. The football, all that stuff will stay, but there'll be some stuff I do daily that maybe a 15-20 minute pod, coffee with Gup, whatever. I get Kenny on since he's not staying up late no more, and JB and I will knock out a pod real quick. But one thing, I saw my wife over the weekend, like I couldn't be more proud of the team that we have today, which is by no means a disrespect to anybody that's no longer here, because all those guys are valuable. I still talk to Tambo literally daily at this moment, especially he's got another baby on the way as well. Wishing him well, and thoughts and prayers to them. But the overall support of the team and the community and the constant feedback of the Slack, like it's been so tremendous for me that it encourages me even more that, hey, I'm out with my family. It allows me to go, I got to do family first this weekend because we're moving in, we're doing all this crazy stuff. And I got solid guys like Josh, Tommy, Bobby Berger's been tremendous behind the scenes as well, helping me. Bobby Gould is knocking out of the park, the lineup generator, and he's going to be kind of over our football tools makeover. So those are going to be awesome. You guys can tell that just by seeing his generator. ADHD is mentoring Bobby. No one better in the industry than ADHD at what he does. So our tools, as you've seen the pain, as we talked about last night in the video, has come a long ways. And today I think it's as good as anything on the market. So the entire team, and I mentioned this last night, I just want to reiterate, is like, we're not the best today, and we know that. We're not the biggest, we know that. But what everybody knows about us is our passion and commitment to what we provide is always there. And everything that I want to provide, I want it to mean something, to be valuable. And when you got one of the hottest players in the world right now, and his insight, that stuff's valuable to you guys. And we want to give you the free tease, because this is going to go out on our SmashFactor pod feed. We wanted to give you guys that, a little bit of that. And then we teased it. There's some stuff going out to the members. There's no better time to join right now. You literally can get all the tools for free. You can join for 30% off. You get free merchandise. You'll be in there for 2 days, and you'll be like, I had a guy literally, I won't miss his name, was a member for 12 hours and wanted a full refund. He was like, this is too overwhelming for me. And I say, hey, man, I get it. Like, I was in the middle of my move, and I got the email and I wrote him back. I said, here's the deal. Stay through next Sunday. Give me 10 days. Join the Slack, because I saw you haven't done that yet, and just try it out. And if in 10 days from now you're still overwhelmed, you don't get it, I will fully refund you. I'm not about making money off anybody. And he couldn't have been more appreciative of that, because I was like, hey, just try it out. Like, I don't want you to be overwhelmed. There's a lot of value here, and a lot of it's in that Slack, but those guys in Slack will guide you to the right pieces. And he's like, man, I appreciate that. I appreciate the flexibility, but that's what we're about. Like, we want people in here to learn and get better. It's not a money grab by any means. Josh, I thank you again. I know we'll have a lot of talk going on tomorrow. You've been active in Slack. There's a ton of things that go on through the next 36 hours before we lock. For JB behind the mic, the entire Gups Corner community, I'll be back tomorrow night. We are going to go early. It'll probably be around 4 to 5 Eastern time with Kenny, Grandpa Kenny now. He's got to get to bed, get up early, but it will be on the site all night long. So once we get done, we put it on the site under the chats. You can access it as a premium member all night long. It'll still be fire. Everything's going to go. We're just going to have, daytime with Kenny instead of nighttime. So I appreciate you guys. You guys have a good night, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you, guys.
SmashFactor.